Welcome to Elevating La Cultura podcast, a space where I talk with Latinas who are passionate about what they do and willing to share their wisdom with others to change the narrative, especially for the next generation. Each season is centered around different topics, but all with a Latina perspective. This is season 2, focused on health and wellness. So vámonos, and let's get into it. Hola familia, I hope you all are doing well and enjoying this almost summer weather. I know I am. This next episode with Yesenia was so powerful and healing for me, and I'm excited to bring you all into our conversation as well. My first Zoom meeting with her a few months ago felt like it could have lasted all day. I felt such a deep connection with her from the beginning. Through her community, Her Revolucion, she is helping people heal from past experiences so they can connect and have a holistic relationship with themselves. Yesenia shares so much wisdom and truth in this episode, so please enjoy our conversation. Hello, I am so excited to be speaking with you and introducing you to the podcast audience. I'm here with Yesenia. She is going to be speaking about this amazing community that she is building, and I am so excited to continue the conversation. We spoke maybe a month ago, and the conversation was just so good. So I thought I would bring it to our listeners. So why don't you introduce yourself and tell us what you are doing, the community that you're building?
My name is Yesenia Fernandez, and I'm so happy to be here on your podcast. I am the founder and CEO of Her Revolucion. So we are basically a newly developing community for healing and for healing of the self. And we're basically just the intentions are for women of color to find that space, that kind of grounding of just, telling their stories. So basically, that's what we're trying to build. It's something that I started last year. It's very new. So we're still in the stages of creating the website and building together workshops. That's one of the main things that we want to create. Just basically just having that space where people feel comfortable being themselves. And I feel like that's something very important when you're going through your healing journey, because it's very hard to just come out and express yourself and.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we connected through Instagram, and I was just drawn to who you are as a person, and you're like so caring and like easy to talk to. And I feel like it is so much easier to connect with someone who can relate to your culture. Like it's easier to talk about past experiences or shared moments where you've experienced racism, uh, discrimination. It's easier to open up that conversation and talk with someone who you feel safe with because they may have also experienced the same things. I feel like on a certain level, people of color can relate because of, I mean, it's so sad to say, but of like that general shared experience of being discriminated against at least at one point in life, and feeling like that less than feeling. Um, and so creating a space that is safe is so important, especially as I know that we talked about last time, like millennials. Like I'm a millennial. I'm in my 30s, and yes. And I feel like as an adult, I'm realizing the work that I need to do and the healing that needs to take place in my life in order to really flourish or grow as a human, as a mother, as a business owner, as a Latina, like as all of the above. Um, so why don't you walk me through like why you chose to start this in the first place? Like what got your gears spinning to create this space?
You know, it was years until I realized that there were things that I was dealing with, but I just didn't know how to like put into words or just express it. And it wasn't until I was experiencing just like different scenarios where I was challenged specifically when I became a mother. And I felt very unequipped. Um, and it wasn't until years that, passed by, I started to see the patterns within me parenting my own children. I would then remember me as a child and how my mom's parenting kind of reflected towards me. And also the relationships that I built as a child and just being exposed to the family dynamic. And it was just so many questions I had as a child, but they were never answered. And so I feel like within that, like the confusion and just years of just listening, obeying, following traditions, and just trying to be this person that society was telling me that I should be. But then it's like, what is that? What does that look like to be you, to love yourself? And my children now, they're like preteens. My second one, he's a teenager now. He's 14. And now we have like a very, I guess you can say, a closer relationship. And it wasn't until just having that conversation, because a lot of us, we think that with our certain roles that it just ends there, that because your child is younger than you, that you don't owe them maybe an explanation or just letting them know that it's okay to mess up. No one is perfect, so just because you're an adult, it does not mean you have all the answers. And so I feel like a lot of these things had taken place within my own upbringing. And being a child, I wanted to save the world. I wanted to kind of be the mediator within, my parents and just, people that I was close to at the time. But I was just a child. Who's going to listen to a child, But working through that and becoming a mom, going through relationships, uh, I feel like that started to like spark something. You know, when there's that time when you feel like I need to find the answer to whatever this issue is, you go out there looking for answers. You start maybe doing things that you think that they're okay at the time, but they're, an escape, to this sort of reality that was constructed for you, basically. So I feel like a lot of traumas, specifically women of color, which Latinas, um, Black women, and just so many other women today that um, they have to deal with the patriarchy. They have to deal with the machismo. And then the underlining, what does it mean to be exposed to this blanqueamiento, that then you question race? But then it's like it's something greater than that, It's something that throughout ages or whatever, like we question the idea of race and who we are and all these things, but it's something way deeper than that. It's where did we learn certain traditions? Where did we learn to kind of pass down certain generational beliefs that this is how you should raise a child? Or you tell your children you can only play with your cousins or your sisters, but don't play with the other kids, strangers, and all that. So these certain things they develop uh, at a very young age, and we just don't realize that. And I feel like that, we don't give children, I guess, that chance to kind of ask them, is this okay with you? Or, like, have that conversation. And when you don't do that, then you have adults that just are going through life questioning who they are. They have roles, they have titles, and they're still healing. It's a process that it's an ongoing process that just keeps going. And the more we kind of like celebrate culture, traditions without us asking, okay, well, what makes this okay? Let's look into this further. Why is it that if I'm a girl and I grow up in a household with brothers, it's okay for them to go out and hang out, but it's not okay for me to do that? Or, for instance, moms, when they say, there's this term, um, mimado, or like the son that he's very close to his mom, and a mama's boy. There you go. So like the favoritism that happens when certain parents, specifically moms or single moms, they choose to favor the son and not the daughter. And then it becomes a thing where we then share these practices of servitude. So you're going to serve the males, and you're going to accept that whatever they do is okay because they're men. And this is very detrimental to like the mental health. If you're growing up in a household where there's certain rules and you're all supposed to be like equal, right? And just be this loving, caring family, why is it that the inequality is starting at home? Why is it that also I've noticed, and even from my own experience, when it comes to bullying a lot of the times starts at home. And I've noticed where it becomes kind of like entertainment or a joke when um, you call the kid someone else's name because of their action. So if my name is Daisy, they'll call me, oh, she's acting like Rafael. So they start calling me Rafael. Oh, here comes Rafael, because of something that I did that represents that person. So it's so many different things that I feel like as a community, it's okay for us to have these questions. Um, because at the end of the day, if we don't do that, we don't pause and start looking back at why is it that the patterns that we continue to, pass down, why is it we keep getting the same results? Is it tradition? Is it part of our culture? And if it's not, let's look deeper into it. Let's talk about it. Instead of uh, having family gatherings where we just entertain, like we make fun of someone, and this is supposed to be our family member. Like, why don't we use the time to ask those questions that people feel uncomfortable with, you know? And I feel like we're at a time now where, yeah, we have Zoom, or because of the pandemic, people are now using more of technology and all these things. And I feel like with everything that's happening around the world, when we say we need to have those conversations, I feel like this is part of that. This is something that is actually bigger than what it sounds like. And I honestly think that it'll help a lot of the young people and even the older folks that they've always have seen just that one way of thinking, and that it's okay to just step out of the box. And what what is it, or how does it how does it look like to just remove all the labels? When we do that, then how do we see ourselves? And yeah, that's pretty much but I feel like down this journey with Her Revolution, there's going to be other topics that are probably gonna be the focus for for having this healing space. And because of my story, I feel like it is the invitation for others to feel that whatever rage that is that you have, that you're holding, that anger, how to switch it into a passion, like the passion of you just telling your story, telling your truth. I feel like that is the only way. Well, I'm gonna try not to sound absolute, but that is it's one of the ways for someone to really kind of self heal and just deal with, why is it that I always feel triggered when I see this person? Where does this anger come from? And we stop personalizing the emotions that we get. If someone triggers you or whatever, like if something that reminds you of a trauma, of an event, asking yourself, why do I feel this emotion? Where is this coming from? Because you're going to live the rest of your life just being triggered and escaping whatever it is that you need to work on, and that's yourself.
Yeah, I think starting these conversations and having the space to have these conversation is huge, because a lot of times people might be feeling these things but not have they may never have even spoken it out. It's just been a thought in their head, and they keep pushing it back and pushing it aside, and they're thinking like, "Oh, it's not that big a deal." They've never actually put words behind it. They've never actually said it out loud. Um, and part of that is maybe because of fear of going against or causing a wave in their family or in their friend circles. Another reason could be because they don't have the space to do it. I feel like I was talking to someone recently about how we have started to, as like this generation has started to do the healing work, because Instagram is can be an amazing space. And so someone might post something like a quote and you're like, I really resonate with that. Like, why am I feeling down on myself? Like, I need to think positively. Or they might see something else and it'll say like, oh, you need to make sure you drink enough water. And you're just like, well, I am drinking a lot of coffee. Maybe I should be like drinking more water. And it's these little steps. But the thing about Instagram as well is that it can be such a solo activity. that you just are scrolling and you're just like, huh, maybe I that does like spark something in me, and then you might think on it a little bit more, but that's where it stays. If you don't have that community to further that discussion or even just put to words, like, because you might be like me. I feel like I have started this, like, shifting my mindset when it comes to parenting since I've had kids. Because I mean, people have heard the phrase like, "Oh, well, I turned out fine." Like, I'm
Mm,
fine.
mm,
So, like, like, I was raised with getting hit or getting spanked or un chanclazo, but I was fine. Like, I was yelled at, but when I think about, like, how I want to discipline my children or even raise them or even have a relationship with them, that's when I started shifting my idea of parenting and actually thinking through some of the things that I went through as a kid, how it made me feel, and how I don't want to make my kids feel that way. And it's that just like that little shift in mindset. But if you don't have the support around you, that can be so difficult, especially if you are in an environment that doesn't give you one the space to talk about your feelings, two continues the patriarchy, so you don't even have a say in what happens in your home. Um, or if you're surrounded by other people with the mindset of, "Oh, well, no, you turned out fine. Like, you should not try and change anything. Don't be like the kids will be what, too soft?" Or like I've actually heard those phrases,
mm,
and I have been realizing this that I'm in this place um during the pandemic because we've had distance away from people. So I've been able to focus like on our family unit, what the values are for that I want for my family, and start implementing them and start like the healing process. But again, I am going through it alone. Well, in partnership with my husband, but like there is really no community that I've found to have these discussions.
mm,
Uh, cuz like you were saying, like everything is so interconnected. Like it ties back to our cultural roots and what our ancestors experienced through colonialism. And that, like, once you make that connection, I feel like then you can start actually putting to words and thinking about taking that anger or rage and turning it into passion because you have an understanding of where all of this trauma and hurt stemmed from. It wasn't necessarily your parents, but how they may have been treated by their parents and may have been treated by theirs and how they may have been treated by colonizers. And it's like so mind blowing when you actually like think through it. And um, so I want to ask, like, how do we start talking about or thinking through how, like, to actually wrap our mind around some of these big issues and topics, um, so that we can create that generational change? Like, how can we like start communicating that with other people or even with ourselves? Like, how do we do that?
mm. I feel like there's a lot of self reflection that needs to happen. Um, for many of us, and like you mentioned before, we think we're good, or you have someone else tell you, "Oh, you're fine. Just live your life and just do what you're doing. It's, it's great." But It's like you know yourself. When your intuition tells you that something is off, your body lets you know, once you start going down that path, you start asking yourself those questions like, have I actually, was I part of this? And if I was, did I made a change? Did I make a change? Or another thing is that because, especially, well, I guess it's beyond the Latinx community or just people of color in general. I feel like in families, uh, sometimes we are guilty by association when we let certain things kind of like slide. Like, let's say um I saw an issue, like someone got into an altercation, an argument, and someone was actually being discriminated against, and I allowed that. I didn't say anything because I thought that wasn't my place. But then it's like, it is your place. If we're talking about a family dynamic, I feel like you should say something. If you see there is some type of bullying in the family where people see it as, oh, it's just a joke, and you really don't know how the other person is feeling, you know, like it starts there, trying to pinpoint those signs. If you see it, say something. Like that's the slogan that everyone talks about, especially New York City with the MTA. Um, but it's true. Uh, we're also in the times where we see things and we just record them. We don't say anything. We don't intervene, but we feel it. We want to do something. And I feel like that taking those steps, if you're if you're in a situation where you're exposed to something and you know you have to say something, do that, because whatever you try to do in that moment, you don't know how impactful that'll be for that other person that's being either targeted or um they're just not treated the right way. And when you don't do that, when you don't intervene, that is something that you carry within yourself. And I feel like that's something that you then start to do to yourself. So if you're going through something, you're not going to do anything about it. So this is how like the mind works. And basically families just sit together, talk about how their day went, or maybe mention something that, hey, I didn't like what you said the other day, it made me feel this way. Or, you know, even if the person is younger than you, just giving them that respect. You want respect, return the same respect. um and I think that's like one of the ways that we now, you know, like these are things that we can do apart from uh you know, like you mentioned before, there's a lot of places that people can visit, pages, social media. um, I know that sometimes it becomes very overwhelming with the information that we get every single day. um, but this tool, this technology, it has the good and it's bad. So I suggest find the information. And if there's a group or a community like Her Revolution or many other communities out there, uh, join, speak with someone, ask questions. And I feel like that is when you're that vulnerable to ask the questions, that actually makes you stronger. And I feel like that is very, very crucial when it comes to someone that is healing, is going through the process of healing.
Yes, I think back to you just saying you have to ask the questions. And that's something that I've taught my kids because I realize, and I don't know where developmentally, like this idea of needing to do something by yourself starts. But I know like toddlers, like you try to help them and they're like, no, I'm going to do it myself. Like you try and tie their shoe and they're like, no, or help them like with eating or opening something and they're like, no, I'm going to do it myself. And usually like that just frustrates them even more when they cannot do the thing. And I saw this in my children when they were young. And even like because I homeschool them, I see it when they're like working through a math problem or when I ask them to do a specific chore and they're having trouble. And like at first I was just like I would just watch them struggle and I'd be like, "Why are they not asking for help?" And I think it's because there's this inner desire to be right or to like not need help, to be independent. But I started uh telling them I wouldn't go and just like take over because I also thought that this could be a teaching moment. And I realized when looking back, if I wasn't doing something correctly, I would either A, get in trouble for it, get shamed for it, or get that task taken away from me. And now I realize that has stemmed into my perfectionism. And even through my perfectionism, I'll still get made fun of and say, like, be like, why are you such a perfectionist? Or it's not that big of a deal. So that's something that I am working through. And so when I saw my kids struggling with this, like I was actively thinking, like, what is going through their mind? Like, what can I do? And I just posed the like I just told them, if you need help, you can ask me. And so I would see them struggling and I'd be like, if you need help, you can ask me. Sometimes like I'm also busy making dinner, so I'm not like actively like there if they're struggling. Like I just let them figure it out. But if I see something where I can help and I want to help, I'll first give them that opening. If you need help, you can ask me. If they continue or they don't respond, then I'll say, do you need help? And that gets them to think, do I need help? Yes or no? Can I do this myself? Do I want to continue trying to do this? Have I struggled enough to the point of frustration that I can ask for help? Sometimes they'll say yes. Can you help me? And the thing that I've also taught them is to actually ask for help instead of just saying yes. I'd say okay, and then they'll say, "Can you help me?" And I want them to be okay asking for help because I feel like if they grow up, it's going to show up if they have a job, if they're in a marriage or a partnership, once they have kids, they're not going to know how to ask for help and to know that it's okay to not know everything and to be vulnerable enough to ask for help. And I think those are two things or two skills that I realized that I did not learn as a kid, that it was okay to ask for help. It's okay to be vulnerable. And now I am relearning that with I'm learning it alongside my kids. And I tell them all the time, like, I'm trying to figure this stuff out too. Like, life is hard. I don't get it right all the time. I'm figuring it out. And I feel like that shifts that power dynamic that sometimes parents have or feel that they need over their children.
Mhm.
Um, and I mean, I speak on this, but it's been years of work that I have been doing internally to get to this place where I can actually have conversations with my kids about it and conversations with my partner and with my family. Um, so it's not easy. And I've gone through, like, I'm thankful for the friends in my life. One of them is um, uh, in the medical field and like a psychologist and has really helped me in developing the language um, to have these conversations or even just to like start making connections. Um, so yes, I really like the fact that you said like we have to start by asking questions and it's okay. Because I feel like by asking questions like that then starts a conversation, starts people thinking, starts wheels turning as to how we can create change or like how we can start doing the healing in our own lives. Um,
Yeah.
so yes, I am excited for this community because I really do believe it's going to be powerful beyond what I can imagine or what you probably can imagine. Um, I feel like this safe space is very much needed, um, especially in the Latinx community.
Yeah, for sure.
Uh, yeah. So I wanted to ask in I know we've talked about like the importance of doing this work. Um, but in your own personal experience, like why do you think or like how can we get people excited to actually explore this topic because it's really scary. Like if you think about it, like to do inner healing is not fun. It
Mhm.
brings up emotions. And that's another thing that I struggle with is crying. Like I mean, it stems back from being made fun of for crying or not being strong enough, but I don't cry a lot. Um and other people might feel that same way, like they just don't like exploring emotions because they don't want to cry or they don't like to cry. But how can we get people excited or um, share the importance of doing the healing work, especially in the Latinx community for future generations?
Hmm. That's a very, very good question. Um, I feel like just like how now we have different, like we have all these platforms, right? Um, I think a way, I've been thinking about this actually, and it's kind of tricky, but I see how we can utilize these platforms or uh, how people use TikTok. Even I've seen it recently. People are utilizing that to give information, um, and I feel like with the younger generation, it's all about making things fun. How do we make things fun? And I feel like when you're the person or the people that want to bring kind of like this work, uh, you have to sort of find how we're going to have fun with this because we're going to be talking about trauma and, all these things. When you're doing that inner work of healing, it's like you're going to relive these traumas. And you mentioned about crying, like I myself, Uh, like I'm an emotional person, but I like to carry out the role, right? Like I have my stuff together type of thing. Um, you know, for the future generations, just like we say now, like be strong, be bold, and all these things, right? Um, you just have to be vulnerable, be open, and understand that we all mess up, and our parents mess up, our teachers mess up, everyone messes up. Everyone messes up. And it's through those little hiccups that um, we then are able to look at, you know what, maybe it's something that I have to improve here, and then it actually becomes better. So it's like you need it to quote unquote like mess up, um, and not be this perfectionist, because it's very draining to be this perfectionist. If you really think about it, there's no way of achieving that. Like, it's an idea. It's an idea that's created, um, and just ask the questions. Ask all the questions that that within what's happening in your reality, what's happening at home or school, whatever it is that you see that's happening, and you want to question it because something does not align. You feel it. Ask the question. And if your question is not answered, um, there's different places that you can go to and look for this sort of, information. Um, I know that Instagram has a lot of, let me see if I can remember from the top of my head. There's one for childhood trauma, like survivors for childhood trauma. There's stuff like that. Um, that really, I don't know, I feel like within last year, this year, people are becoming very creative with how to provoke this kind of conversation. It's something that we shouldn't just have the adults partake and just let it be something that, it's something that I only do with my therapist. But you have people that can't afford therapists, or some people, they can't leave their home. um there's people that maybe didn't finish school. A lot of parents, and so it's like, so how do I access things like this? There's so many people out there, so many people that they just have so much information, and you just gotta plug and play, and there's no right and wrong way of doing something. It's what you feel comfortable with, and if whatever it is that you're exploring, if it makes you feel comfortable, welcome, then stick to that.
Yeah, I think that's great advice for people that are like starting out and trying to navigate their journey in this tricky healing process. Um, so I wanted to ask, as a Latina, are there any like past ideas, patterns, or limiting beliefs that you have had to work through to get to this place of creating a community?
Hmm. Yes. So this was something that was told to me by a woman, and I feel like for me, throughout my journey, like even before I even thought about I had an issue, or that I had things to work on, in that inner work, I was having this lack of trust when it came to uh, the women community in the Latinx community. Um, so basically, having people say, well, why are you going back to school? I don't understand why people like you go back to school after they have a child, right? So things like that really like stuck to me, where it's like instead of empowering, you're then minimizing, this growth this person wants to take, because at the end of the day we all make choices, you know, sometimes not the most wisest ones, but everyone has their own path to take. And then trying to replicate someone else's is never going to work. It's never going to work. You're always going to fail, because that's not you. And what is you is you rediscovering yourself. Who are you? Or who were you? Like, who was that child back then that was in the middle of these issues that at the time you just didn't understand? You didn't know what was going on. Um, and I feel like when I was told that made me think, like, wait a minute, like, I'm actually trying to just grow as a person, become better, provide more. What's wrong with going back to school? Isn't that should be a good thing? That should be applauded, right? And it's things like that, that can really crush somebody, because then you then tell yourself, well, am I doing the right thing? Maybe I shouldn't go back to school, and maybe I should get a second job, or maybe a third job. But then it's like, is that really what's going to get me to where I want to go? So that self exploration, and uh sometimes the advices that we get from people, uh are they advices? Like, does it sound like something that uh pushes you to kind of like go out there and just be so bold and brave, and like, or is it something that is bringing you down, and that person is giving off their insecurity to you? So, you know it's things like that, especially that one, that really stuck to me. And I said, you know what, I'm just going to do what I feel like is right for me. And seeing how the person that was telling me like how to live my life, it's like, you gotta, you know whatever it is that you're telling someone else to do, like, you gotta live by it too, you know and you only have one life. It doesn't matter. You have children. You didn't finish school when everyone else finished school. We all learn different ways. We all have different levels of traumas, and uh, the way that we heal. Everything is just completely different. And then if you go down the wave of, I want to be like everyone else, ask yourself, what does that mean to be like everyone else? Think about what it is to be you. And to be you, that means whatever that makes you comfortable on the inside, that you just feel like, you know what, this is it right here. That's being you. You know, even the saying about loving yourself, a lot of people don't know what that means, because love may have a different meaning. There's just different, we give things, it's a different context to someone else. So what's right for you may not be right for me. So it's always this trial and error thing that comes when you're healing. And we try to strive for the end goal, the I'm a perfectionist type of thing. I don't want to deal with this anymore. But the thing is that life is not just this one way, like this absolute kind of way. If I want to be successful, uh, it has to be this way. So, kind of like relooking at what it means for something to be this way, like asking yourself, why does it have to be absolute? And how far has that taken us as society, as people, these absolute ways of thinking, and life is hard, and it gets harder when you don't allow yourself to kind of be open to other people's perspectives. At the end of the day, we're all looking at the same thing, but we all have something different to kind of bring in. And I feel like it's okay, and it's what makes you feel comfortable. What makes you feel safe? I should put it that way. What makes you feel safe? I feel like that should be like the new way of, approaching it. So it doesn't have to be a house. You have cushions around you. You're protected that way. It's feeling safe within. So I never knew, like, before, that this was going to take me to even start something. Uh, but it's like, I asked myself, I said, well, what am I doing if I honestly don't feel happy with how my life was turning out? And then when I took that step, that huge step, you know, I started seeing so many different things that back then I wasn't able to do. And I had to go and relive my traumas, as painful as they might have been. Um, but it's like when you don't relook through them, it's something that you're missing out, because whatever gap it was that you were trying to fill in, so like replacing it with an escape or whatever it was, that you have to do the work. No one else is going to do it for you. Um, but having the spaces where you have tools, right, that can help you maneuver through this process, I feel like, why not?
I think it's like you said, the big piece that a lot of people need to have is that mindset shift to know that it's okay to deconstruct things that you thought were one way and to reconstruct them in a way that makes you feel safe. Because, like your experience with what that woman said about your continuing education, ever since we've been little, especially as women, we've been made or taught to fit into a certain box. So when we were little, we were taught to, be quiet or be this one way because our parents had control over us. And then in school, we were taught to sit quietly, do your work, do your best, get the good grades because we had teachers who had control over us. And then that moves into our work environment. We have our bosses over us. And then when you're a mother, we have the patriarchy telling us to stay in that space and to fit that certain box. But along the way, like you have to tap back into who you are as a human and to figure out who that little girl was meant to be. And that is where that mindset shift is going to be so valuable and so important to make, and why you might have to relive some of your experiences, to know who you are as a person now, and that you can be um, multi-dimensional. You can be a mom and run a business and continue your education and fill in the blank, all these other things. So I love that you shared that story. Thank you for sharing that, because I feel like it might relate to so many other people who are in that position. Um, but yes, start that mindset shift, and to know that it's okay to deconstruct past ideals that you thought were absolute. I think that's where it that journey begins. Um, all right. Do you have any like encouragement or advice for the next generation? I know that this whole conversation has been like full of wisdom and advice from you, and I'm so grateful. But like in a nutshell, do you have anything that you would want to pass on to the next generation of um, college students, high school students?
Um, I would like to say that there's actually no rush into being the person that you want to be, because at the end of the day, you are already that. Um, but everything is going to take its time, and it's okay that uh, you're going through that. Um, you know, you're brilliant, and if you're going, to college, you're planning so many different things that are going to help you just become a better person or a better neighbor, whatever it is you think that you're bringing into this world. Just know that you were never forgotten as a child. And this could be for someone that has experienced trauma as a child, and they're now like in high school and in college, and they feel that pressure of just being this person, this, um, is going to take time, and you're only one. So it's okay if you're going to make mistakes. We all do. Just know that life moves on. And with that, you also, you just become a very like valuable kind of asset to the world. So whatever it is that you have right now, it's okay, because at the end of the day, you're actually taking the steps. And instead of waiting for someone else to praise you, I think you should praise yourself. And that's something that, you can practice either starting today, and, just, just accept yourself for who you are now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so good. That's so good. Thank you so much for this conversation, for sharing everything that you shared. I am so excited to see this community grow and develop um, this year. I feel like even just with this conversation, I'm like have so many ideas, and I'm like we should like continue this and do a collaboration, or maybe do a workshop together. I think this work is important, and I think this type of community is very much needed. So, why don't you share where people can find you?
Okay. Right now, I have an Instagram page, and it's her underscore Revolucion, and that's Revolucion. So that's revolution, but in Spanish. And currently we're working on our website. So I'm pretty sure after, you know, this is uploaded, I'll definitely add something in there with the website. I also have a Twitter page, and it's the same at her_revolucion. And let's just see how this turns out. This is one of the starting points, and I'm excited too, to kind of get things running. And I still feel like that kid sometimes, like just starting something, where's it going type of thing, but it's just doing the work, just being in it.
Yeah, we all got to start somewhere.
That's right.
And I'll include all of the information at the end of the video and then also in the show notes. So once your website is launched, like I will be including that in all the details of this podcast. Anyway, I feel like, I mean, we can talk like all day.
I know.
One day, I feel like I want to visit,
I love it.
do like something in person. I'll go to
Yes.
the East Coast, and hang out with you.
Yeah.
But thank you so
This
much
was
for your
great.
time.
Thank you. I feel like we were chatting, I don't know, like in one of those spots, like we're sitting outside or something and we're just chatting.
Exactly. I know.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And we will talk later.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
See, I told you we would go deep in this episode. I love that these conversations are happening and that Yesenia has created the space for it so that healing can start to take place. I've realized that as much as I want a better future for my kids, that I need to be doing the work in my own life in order to show them that change is possible and give them that foundation to keep building on. Okay, amigos. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this conversation, please share, rate on Apple Podcasts, take a screenshot to share on Instagram at Elevating La Cultura, or send me a DM. You can also comment on this YouTube video if you're watching online. I always like to hear from people and how they resonate with the stories that I share. So, enjoy the rest of your day, afternoon, evening, whenever you're listening, y nos vemos next week.